The first face cloth we're going to show in this series is the most basic intermediate one, which is basically stockinette through the center, eyelets on the outer edge, and then of course the garter stitch border. So this is a real simple one, and you should be able to do it without a whole lot of trouble because it's very repetitious. There's only a 4-row repeat. So let's get started. My next series is going to be on my 6 face cloth designs. I have 6 different ones, starting with 2 very basic, easy patterns. This is one of them, and that one up here. They're fairly easy to do. We'll do those 2 first, and then we'll go to the intermediate one, which is this one, which is kind of like a woven basket. And this one's, I think, called Bluebells. It's really cute the way the little bells work out, super easy. Then we'll go to the more experienced ones, which is this one, which is mostly laces with SSKs and knit 2-togethers. And the last one is this one here, which takes a lot of concentration because, as you can see here, there's knits, yarn overs, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over, a variety of different stitches. So we're going to go through each one by one. I'm going to get started tomorrow on the very first one, which is this one, which is very basic and simple. I'm not sure if I'm going to make the whole face cloth or if I'm just going to make a small version, like a 3 to 4 inch square version. I'm still debating on that. If you want to leave a little note under comments to say you'd rather me do the little small 3 to 4 inch version or the complete 7 inch version, which is the size, I believe, of the actual face cloths. I don't think I ever wrote on it exactly what their size is. I still have one left at my shop. I'll bring that with me when I start my very first one, which is this. So stay tuned, and we will do a series of 6 knit face cloths next. The next thing we have to do is decide which yarn and which needles we're going to use. The pattern calls for either Tatamy, where's it at? Tatamy DK cotton acrylic yarn, or the Barocco Corsica, also the Knitting Fever Concept Works. This is the Corsica. It's 90% cotton and 10% cashmere, works really well. This is the Tatamy DK, which I have quite a bit of this still left in stock. And this is 45 cotton, 55 acrylic. Unfortunately, I'm all out of the concept, but the concept is pretty much similar to this one. I think I can still get it, but I'd have to check and see. So before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and use probably this yellow one here, and I'm going to wind it up into a ball, so it's easier for me to work with. Once I do that, then we'll go ahead and start working on the actual pattern. Now the pattern calls for size 6 needles. Unfortunately, when I did this pattern many years ago, my hands and I were a lot more friendly with each other. Right now, my hands and I are not as friendly, so I'm going to use a size 7 and see how it works. If not, I can always take it apart and put it down on a size 6. So let me go ahead and get this wound up. Okay, I got my ball wound into my cylinder so I can pull it from the center. And I was looking at the label here, and it suggests a size 5 needle, and I did mine on a 6 originally, so I think I'll go ahead and switch down to the 6 and not the 7, because the gauge on here says 22 stitches equals 4 inches, and the gauge on here is 22 stitches equal 4 inches on a 5. So this might be a hair bigger, but it'll still work. And then I was looking at the label here, and this one said either use a 5 or a 6, and they're saying 21 to 23 stitches to 4 inches. So a 6 will work with both of them. And I know when I did my original one, I did it on a 6 because I even put 6 on here. And let's see, how many yards is in one of these? There always is a challenge to find the yards. Here it is, 250 yards. So that means I could get 2 cloths out of this one, possibly 2.5. And if I got another one, then I could get 5. But I don't think I need 5 yellow ones. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to make the first one. Like I said, we're going to do the easiest ones first, and then we'll progress on to the more advanced ones. So we'll start with cast on 59 stitches. Now there's multiple ways of casting on. I like to do the long tail cast on. Make a slip knot, and there's 2 ways to do it. The simple way to do a long tail cast on is wrap the yarn around your thumb like you're doing the standard cast on. You know how you do it this way, like this? Well, we're using this in the long tail cast on, except we're going to add one more step with this. So let's go back to this one. Okay. So you start by going around your thumb, and then you hold it between your thumb and forefinger, grab your tail, wrap it around your needle, and then move your loop over your thumb off and over. So that's how you would do a long tail cast on with two hands. This is the most basic way. I'm going to do a few stitches this way, and then I'm going to do the slingshot method, which I like to do. So wrap it clockwise around your thumb, go up your thumb, hold it between your thumb and forefinger, yarn around the needle, hold it along the edge of the needle. That gives you a little bit of tension, and then move the other yarn over the tip of the needle and off your thumb. You don't want to pull it super tight. You want to have a little bit of play, and that's why you kind of hold this. This hold gives you a little bit of tension while you're working with this one. Okay, let's do it again. Yarn over, go up your thumb, hold it between your fingers, yarn over, then hold your thread along the edge of the needle, then flip the yarn off your thumb over the tip of the needle. Okay, we do it again. This is the long tail cast on, but using two hands. Now when I do it this way, mine is not always as evenly tensioned, but when you first start, it doesn't matter. This is all practice in the beginning. The more you do it, the better it's going to be and the easier it's going to get. So up your thumb, hold the needles, and flip it over. See, by holding a little bit of tension here, that gives you a chance to tighten your thread up here. So otherwise that stitch is going to be very loose. I'll show you what happens if you don't tighten it. You just go like this. See how it gets really loose right here, and you don't get your nice tight stitch? That's why I got to give a little tension here and a little tension here. So as you do it, you do a little tension. Now here I don't have as much tension, but that's okay. Like I said, this is a first one. You can make a few mistakes on your first one, but as you go along, you're going to get better and better. I'll do one more this way. Okay, now I'm going to show you the slingshot method, the way I really like to do it. You put your thumb, let me bring the thread in front. You put your thumb and finger between your two threads, grab it underneath with your other fingers, and make a slingshot. So by doing that, you're going to have the yarn in position. So same thing, you go up this thumb. Remember how we did it before? We went up the thumb and holding it this way. We're not going to hold it this way. Instead, the thread is sitting there waiting for us. Now we'll go under the thread, and then over. The thumb goes over, and then you pull it tight. That's why I have a little bit of tension here with these three fingers, so that gives you a chance to use these fingers to pull the thread tight. So over the thumb, around, release it, and then pull it tight, but not really tight. And just keep doing this over and over again. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But see how it goes much faster, and you got even tension? Because you're letting these two fingers here give you the tension, because these fingers are holding your thread tight. Let me see if I can get my thumb out of the way. There. That might help you a little bit more. Go over under the thumb, around the index finger, and the thumb over, and release. Up the thumb, around the index finger, thumb yarn over, and release. And just keep doing that all the way. And see how fast you can go with this? And you can even go faster, but it's a great way to do it because you got all the tension. Oops. And let go every now and then, because the yarn does kind of lose its twist. Let's count and see how many we have, because we need 59. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. We're almost halfway there. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. See how the thread kind of loses its twist? 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. Kind of let it get its twist back. 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, almost there, 57, 58, 59. I usually get about 18 inches of thread or yarn per 25 stitches. So since I was doing 59 stitches, 18 and 18, it's about 36 inches, and it's better to have a little left over than to come up short and have to take it apart and redo it. So right now I'm going to recount just to make sure, and as you see, some of them are a little bit looser than others, but that's okay. It all works out in the wash. As you're knitting it, it all kind of evens out. Especially these first ones, which I did kind of loose. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50, 52, 54, 56, 58, 59. Okay, I got my 59. So I'm ready to start knitting. I did not bring a sample from the shop. I'll bring it tomorrow to show what happens if you don't give yourself a nice garter stitch border, because when you're working with stockinette stitch, it curls and rolls. So you have to have a border of some kind to help keep it from rolling under. Now these eyelets are going to also help, because it's going to give a little relaxed spot right here on either side of your border. Now here, this could be longer to equal out to this. So this is about 5 or 6 stitches. This should have been maybe 6 or 7 rolls instead of just the 4 or 5 that I did. It's up to you if you want to see. I said I knitted 6. I don't think there's 6 here. So we'll see what happens. Get that out of the way. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I will start and stop the video off and on. You don't need to see me doing the plain Jane stuff like knitting every single row, but I will show getting it started. I said this is on a 6 needle. If you want, you could do it on a 5. On a 6, it'll be, I think, a little bit more softer, not quite so tight and stiff. Now on one side of your cloth is going to be smooth, because that's what the stockinette stitch side does. The other side is going to have the bumps on it, which is the purl side, so it'll be more of like a scrubbier side. So you have like 2 sides to your cloth. You can use the smooth side on your face, and you can use the rougher sides on your arms. It's entirely up to you, or the bottom of your feet if they have a tendency to need a little extra scrubbing. But you just knit all the way across. Don't pull your needles apart, because if you do that, you're going to stretch these bottom stitches out of proportion, and you don't want to do that. So always keep your needles close together. I like to work right off my tips. If this one is on the tip here, it gives me a little opening that I can stick this needle in. If it's all the way back here, sometimes it's hard to stick it in because there's no space. But if I take it up here on the tip a little bit, see, I got a little bit of a space there, and it gives me something to stick the needle in. And when I finish, I make sure I take it all the way back beyond the tip. That way it's on the even part of the needle. So I'm not just knitting up here and have all my stitches small and tight. I always make sure when I finish a stitch, I take it back beyond the point, and I know the stitch is going to be a full stitch, that when I go to turn the work and I want to knit with the other needle, I have that little bit of space to put the needle in. Let me go all the way across the first row and get started on the second row. Whoops, I dropped it. But I always keep my work close to my tips, especially on this side. As you see, I keep pushing it up on this side, and I keep pushing it away on this side, because I don't need these stitches because they've already been done. But I'll need these stitches, so this way I can just keep pushing them up with my fingers as I need one, I can push it up. Now, how I got to where I pushed this needle with that finger, I do not know. I've been doing this since I was 17, and it's just now automatic. And it'll kind of happen to you too. If you're still a beginner at knitting and you're a little bit wonky and a little klutzy, that's okay. Just keep practicing, and all of a sudden you'll find your groove, and your fingers will get their muscle memory, and they will start doing what you need them to do when you need them to do it. So just give yourself the time. Because if you give up partway through, you will never go back and finish your work. And knitting is so relaxing and so enjoyable, and you can make so many things when you knit. You can make the garments, dishcloths, booties, socks, gloves, hats, baby jackets. I mean, it's endless what you can make with knitting. I found crocheting, since it twists the thread or the yarn around itself, it's a little stiffer. And when your project itself feels a little stiffer, and I like my projects to, especially for a baby, to feel soft. Okay, now I just finished my last one, as you can see. Now you want to turn your work around, so it kind of looks like you're on the back, and because the bumps would be considered the back and the smooth would be considered the front. But since this part is strictly our garter stitch, we're doing knitting 6 rows. And when you knit every roll, it's called garter stitch. So that's what we're doing. That's going to give us this edge here. I really think there should be more. Like here, if you look at this one, you see it has more garter stitch rolls there, which gives it a more even look, and it matches the garter stitch edging that you can't see on the side of this one. But that's okay. We're going to get to each one, and we can change colors, or just I can make 2 in this color, since I'll have enough to make 2. And I do got the white, and I can make some of the white. I also have a soft pink, a bright pink, a nice mellow blue, and a really soft green. I'll bring one of each of those home, and I'll make these things out of those, because I wanted you to see the colors. Now, even though this is a cotton acrylic, it works just as nicely as a cotton cashmere. It just depends on what kind of feel you want. And since this is mostly cotton and not as much acrylic, it is soft. And being cotton, you don't have to worry about it shedding or shrinking like it would if it was made with wool. We definitely don't want to make it out of wool. Although if that's what you want, you can sure make yours out of wool. You can make it out of bamboo. Bamboo would work really nicely too. I've used bamboo. I have a yarn at the store which said polyester made from bamboo. Now, I haven't quite figured out how you can make polyester out of bamboo. But when I get ready to start the next one, I'll go ahead and bring one of them. Maybe we'll make one out of one of them so we can see the difference. It has a little bit of a sheen to it. So by using different yarns, we'll see what each of the different yarns feel like and look like when they're completed. Now, this is row 2, row 2. It's not a round, this is row 2. And you can see how it's got all the little bumps. And when we turn the work around, we're going to see the bumps on it also. Now, a lot of times when you do the long tail cast on, the cast on roll is classified row 1. And then row 2 would be the first roll I did. However, I have never counted it as my row 1. I've always just counted it as a cast on roll. So mine are always, my projects always look the same because I always treat it the same. It's up to you. You can either consider your cast on roll your first roll, and then you would start maybe with a purl roll next, or knit 1, purl 1, whatever your next roll is, or you can consider that just your cast on roll, and the next roll you do will be considered row 1. So it's whichever way you want to do it. There's no real absolute rules, and if you repeat it, it's a pattern. I love that saying. I had a customer tell me that years and years ago, and it's so true. I've made mistakes on projects, and I just go a little ways and repeat the same mistake, and it looked like it belonged there because there was a pair of them, and so it made it a pattern. Okay, now I've just completed row 2, and you can see the bumps. Now if I turn it around, you can see the bumps on this side too. Now just looking to see this cloth is probably going to be close to This is a 9-inch needle, so this one's probably going to be close to 9 inches wide when I'm finished with it. But that's okay. Washcloth can be any size you want it to be. Okay, I'm going to keep on going until I got at least 6 rolls done, and we'll see what 6 looks like and decide whether we need to do 2 more or not. Well, I wound up doing 8 rolls, and I think 8 rolls is about right because 5 garter stitches here works out to about 1 inch, and when I do this, this works out to about 1 inch. And the way to tell it's 8 rolls is each one of these rows of garter is 2 rolls. So you see there's 2 here, 4, well, let's see, I'm on the wrong side. Here we go. 2, 4, 6, 8. So that gives us our 8 rows of garter. And you can always tell when you've finished 8 rolls is your cast on tail, when you do row 1, is always on your right. And when you finish your even roll, which would be like row 2, 4, 6, and 8, your cast on tail will always be on your left. So at this point I've got my 8 rolls, and I like the 8. That works out pretty good. Now this is definitely going to be a fairly large washcloth, so we probably have to do more pattern rolls in order to get a square, but that's no big deal. We can do as many rolls as we need. We can even turn it into a rectangle if we want. It's our design and it's our way of doing things. Okay, now the first one it wants us to do after we did the 6 rows of knit is we're going to start with a purl roll and row 1. Normally row 1 is a knit side, but because we've already done all these knits, I want to get ahead of the game and start on a purl roll. So we'll do knit 4, purl to the last 4 stitches, knit 4. Now each pattern is different. Some will say 4, some will say 5. It just depends on how the pattern count works out. So we're going to knit 4. Now row 1 does not always have to be the right side. Row 1 can be the wrong side if that's what makes the pattern work. Okay, so there's my 4. Now I bring the yarn in front and I'm going to purl. I'm going to go purl all the way across to the last 4 stitches. And that will give us the beginning of the back side, I should say. We're not quite halfway there yet. Now with this particular one, since it's fairly straightforward, you can actually do less. As long as you do an odd amount, you can actually make it smaller. If you want, you can take this, what you've done, off your needles and lay it flat and measure it and see what the width is. And if you're after a specific width, you can measure it out and see if that width is what you're looking for. And if not, you can reduce it by that amount of stitches that is not in your measurement. And then when you count it, you just make sure you're doing an odd amount, like 49 or 57, whichever you need to do in order to make it not quite as wide. But to start with, if you want to make it the same width as the pattern shows, then you do 59. I contemplated just doing something small like 21 stitches and make it a little tiny one, but I thought, no, I think I'd rather make a full-size one. The ladies in my shop really like these, and it'd be foolish for me to take the time to knit a 4-inch square one when it'd be more profitable to make the full-size one, whether it's 6, 8, or 9 inches square. And after I make this first one, if I decide it's too wide, I can always change the amount on my pattern, which is real easy. Just cross out the 59 and put the amount that I need. And that way, from now on, all the face cloths I make would be a smaller size. Okay, I'm almost to the last 4. So I'm at 5, so now I got 4 left. So now we're going to knit. So bring the yarn to the front and knit 4. Now the reason we started with a purl is row 2 is going to be our first. Let me enlarge this a little bit. You can see it's got the little holes in it right here like we have up the side. So row 2 is going to, I believe, start that design row. So let's take this back down a bit. Okay, yep, that's what it says. Okay, here it says knit 5. And then we're going to repeat yarn over, knit 2 together all the way across to the last 4 and knit 4. So let's do what it says. We never question why the pattern says what it says unless we get to the end and find out it's wrong, and then we can make the corrections if needed. But here it says we need to start with a knit 5. Okay, so then we're going to do a yarn over and knit 2 together. So a yarn over means you wrap the yarn around the needle without knitting, and then knit the next 2 stitches together. That's why it's so important to stay on the tip, because when you're on the tip you have room to get under both of those stitches. Yarn over, knit 2 together. Now see, you do that and you do your yarn over. That takes extra time, and I like to save time whenever possible, so I just found another way. It's the same thing, it's just I'm combining movement. So you normally do a yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together. Oops, try again. Okay, what I like to do is knit 2 together. While the needle's in this position, I do a yarn over, and there I've got my yarn over and I took it off at the same time. So you knit 2. When your needle's to the front, yarn over. So you got your knit 2 together and your yarn over all at the same time. It just saves a movement. And when you got 2,000 of these to do, every little movement you can save comes in handy. So instead of doing yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, we're leaving the needle in this position, yarn over, take it off. See here, I got a mistake. How do you like that? I got a mistake right there. So what I'm going to do is include that mistake in with these 2 stitches, because otherwise I'm going to have a gap. That happens once in a while, so I'm going to put them all together as one stitch. And see, now it's gone. The mistake is gone. Somehow along the line I wound up with a yarn over where I didn't need one. That happens. You can do like I did and just kind of incorporate it with one of the other stitches, or take it back to that point, make your correction, and then continue on. Over the years I found some mistakes I can hide and other mistakes I can't. And when it's in something really, really lacy, you can't hide it. You have to take your stitches out and go back to your mistake. But something as straightforward as this, you can. Okay, I'm just about, see, to the last 4, 2, 4. So this will be my last one. So I'll yarn over, knit 2 together. Okay, repeat to the last 4, then knit 4. So this stitch here will become like stitch number 5 because we didn't do a yarn over after it. So it will become stitch 5. Because if you look here, you have 5 stitches and a yarn over, and by not doing a yarn over after that last knit 2 together, we've actually made 5 stitches. That's the reason why we did 4 when we should have done 5. Okay, now here it says knit 4, purl the last 4, and then knit 4. To me, I think it should be 5, but oh no, that odd stitch is right there. So that's why we got that 5th stitch. It's for our edge stitch before you first yarn over. 3, 4. Okay, and then now we're going to purl. Now when you purl, you're going to purl your knit 2 together, and there's that yarn over. We don't want to drop it, we want to actually knit it. So I'm going to purl it. So act like it's a regular stitch and purl it. Even though it's kind of big, you still want to purl it. We purled the 2 together. Now there's the yarn over. We're going to purl the yarn over, purl the knit 2 together, And you just do it all the way across. Try not to drop any of your yarn overs, because if you drop it and pick it up, you might pick it up the wrong way and you'll have a little twist. So be very careful and go slow if you need to when you get to a yarn over. Oops. Almost dropped it that time. I said my hands and size 6 needles are not always friends, especially late in the evening. But you want to keep going and purl each one across. Oops, one more. Okay, now we gotta purl that one. And as you can see, there's our yarn overs all making little eyelet holes, because that's what this one is. It's an eyelet border face cloth. So we're going to have the eyelets all the way around it. That's the reason why row 1 was a purl. So when we come back the other side, we had that first smooth roll of stitches before we did the eyelets. We're just about to the end, and it says to purl to the last 4, because stitch number 5 has to remain as a knit stitch. So we have to purl it on the wrong side for it to remain as a knit stitch on the front, and that's the important place. Okay, so there's stitch 5. We purled stitch 5. That gives it that smooth look that we want right here, just before the garter stitch. So that's why we have to do number 5 a little bit different than we do the other 4, which are in knit. Okay, let's see what we got here. There. You can see all the eyelets. Let me go over here into that darker area. You can see all your eyelets. Okay, so now we go to row 3. Well, we just did row 3, so row 4 is knit across. No brainer, that's easy to do. We'll knit across. Got quite a ways to go. Just knit every stitch, and it's easy to do because the yarn over is 1 row down now. But you definitely do not want to drop that stitch here that's caught up in that yarn over. Okay, we just keep on knitting. I went ahead and jumped ahead a little bit. I'm still on the same row. I just jumped through like 40 stitches. Just plain knit, just as we started. It's all still knit. Oops, and I almost dropped it. Okay, I've got 4 left. Okay, and that is row 4. So now row 4 is done. And that's pretty good. This width here is pretty close to the width we need over here, so I like it better with 8. So what I could do is change this 6 to an 8. And I can change that on the pattern that I already have published, and that way it'll already be corrected. Now, if you've got one of the older patterns, you can always cross out the 6 and put an 8, or white out the 6 with a little bit of white out and put an 8 there. That works the same. Okay, now we're going to do row 5, which is knit 4, purl to the last 4, knit 4. So evidently the eyelet stitches is every 4 rolls instead of every other roll. So we're going to knit 4. Now we're going to switch to purl, so bring the yarn in back, and now we're going to purl across to the last 4. You just have to be careful and not drop your stitches. If you have to go a little slower, that's fine. Okay, we're getting near the end. This is the same row, 2, 4, 1. knit the last 4. We're almost there. One more. Okay, so now I put the yarn in back because we're going to knit the last 4. Okay. Now that would be right there, row 5. Now we're going to do row 6, which is, row 6 is exactly the same as row 2. So it's actually a 4-row repeat. Because see, when you do row 6, which is the knit 4, in this case it says knit 2 together, yarn over. Oh, that's so we can keep this edge going. Evidently we need to do that in order to make this edge work correctly, because we definitely don't want it to be off. 2, 4, knit those 2 together. Oh, I'm sorry. 2, 4, knit these 2 together so that way the yarn over will line up with this yarn over. If we only knitted 1, then the yarn over would not line up. So there's a reason why you knit those 2 together first. Okay, that's the reason why it shows here different than there. So row 6, we're going to knit 4, knit 2 together, yarn over, and repeat to the last 4 stitches. Then yarn over, knit 2 together. That way we have our knit together before the 4, after the 4, and before the 4. So let's start with knit 4. 2, I got a little thread there. 3, 4. Now we knit 2 together, yarn over, and then knit to the last 6 stitches. There's no knit 2 together, yarn over any other place on here until we get to the far end. So now we're just going to knit to the last 6 stitches, kind of like we were doing before, where we purl to the last 4 stitches and switch to a knit. Here we're going to knit to the last 6 and do the pattern, which is a yarn over, knit 2 together. And when I get there, I can show you where we're at. We're about halfway now. Oh, we're just about there. It's going pretty quick. Unfortunately, when I knit, I have my fingers right where I'm knitting, so it's hard for me to have it all exposed. Okay, it says to the last 6, 2, 4, 6. Okay, and it says to yarn over, then knit 2 together. So we do a yarn over, knit these 2 together, and knit the last 4. Okay, so see that lined our 2 yarn overs up. And then row 7 is knit 4, purl the last 4, then knit 4, just like we did in the previous rows. So we knit 4. That's why I said this one is easy. It's just pretty much knitting and purling with a couple little odd things like a yarn over and a knit 2 together, which are basic stitches that we learn when we first start knitting. Okay, now there's the yarn over. It may look like a boo-boo, but in this case this is correct, so you want to definitely purl that yarn over. And try not to stretch it too far out of shape. It's kind of easy to do because it's kind of sticking out there a little bit. Let's get all the way to the other end. We're about a quarter there. It goes pretty quick. This is something you could do in an evening. I'm not quite sure how long, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2, depending on how fast you knit. We'll find out for sure when we get to the end of this. We'll add up all the time and see what it took. We're getting close. Okay, now we got to go to the last 4 stitches and then knit the last 4. Oops, we're almost there. Yep. Once we get to the yarn over, we'll see it. We'll know to start looking for the 4 stitches after we do the yarn over. Okay. There's the yarn over, so we know we're just about there. So I have 5 left, so I purl number 5, and then bring the yarn to the back so I can knit the last 4. Okay, so let's lay this down and get an idea. Now if I'd done this on circular needles, which you can do it on circular too, then you'd be able to see the whole thing stretched out. Then you know exactly how long it is. But as you can tell, let me move this over here into the darker area. There is the first yarn over, which was this one. And there's the second yarn over, which is that one right there. And as we go through the pattern, it says repeat rows 4 through 7, 13 times. So I'll go ahead and get this about half done. I'll get maybe 6 times, and I'll come back and show you where I'm at with it halfway done, and then I'll come back when we get close to the end. There's no need for you to sit there and watch me redo the same thing over and over and over again when it's easy for me to sit down and do it and bring it back and show you when I get part way there. Okay, I've done 6 repeats and it's set it for a total of 13. I put it on a circular needle so that way I can lay it out flat. So I measured it out here and it looks like it's about 10 inches. And when I go this way, it's roughly 5. So 6 repeats is about halfway. So I definitely would do what I need. Let's see, this part here is actually about 4 inches. So 6 repeats was 4 inches. So I need to do at least 6 more repeats to get 4 inches. And then another 1 inch, which is 8 rows of garter. So that'll give me the 5. So that'll give me what I need here. So I need 6 repeats of this to get up to here. And then the 8 rolls of this, and that'll get it finished. This has taken me about an hour and 40 minutes total from cast on to this point. So this whole thing is going to take roughly 3 hours, or 3 and a smidgen more to make. So it'll give you an idea how long it takes to make one of these. I'll meet you back here when I get to this point. Okay, I've completed the 13 repeats, and that takes us up to 8 inches before the ridge, and then I've got the ridge, which is 8 rows. That takes us to 9, but I still have to do this little section in here. Once I get it done, then the washcloth itself should be 10 by 10 square. So let me go back to our pattern, and the pattern says after you complete rows 4 through 7 13 times, repeat rows 4 and 5, which I did, which is just basically purl, where is it at? 4 is knit across and 5 is the purl across. So I've already done those. Now it says to do rows 2, 3, and 4 once more. So row 2 is all the yarn over, knit 2 togethers all the way across. That is going to give us the holes that I have here on the bottom, up here on the top. So let's do that next. So we start with knit 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we do a yarn over, knit 2 together. So there's our yarn over, knit 2 together, and we do it again, yarn over, knit 2 together, and repeat this all the way across. Yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, Now, like I said, I like to make it one motion instead of 2 or 3. So I have my yarn over, and I start with a knit 2 together. And after I bring the needle to the front, I do another yarn over at that point. That way I've got my knit 2 together and my yarn over in one spot. So I've already got my yarn over, so now I'm going to knit 2 together, bring the needle to the front, and do a yarn over. So it's one motion or 2 motions instead of 3 motions. It just makes it go a little bit faster. Now if you want to do it the other way, you're more than welcome to. Whatever way works best for you. Oh, this one, it looks like it slipped off the needle a little bit. Let me go ahead and fix it. There. Okay, now I got it back on the needle. So knit 2 together, yarn over, and just repeat it all the way across. You can take your time or hurry, whichever you want to do. I know we're getting near the end, so it's kind of anxious time. I want to see what the finished product looks like. We're getting pretty close now. This one's getting stuck. Okay, now I got it over. I switched to the circular needle so that way I could lay it flat and get a good measurement. You can just do it continuously on the straight needles. That works too. It's just I'm more comfortable with circular needles. I use them for just about everything I do because it allows me the ability to lay something flat that's longer than the actual needle, straight needle, and get a reasonably close measurement. Okay, I got to get my yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together. We do this to the last 4 stitches. 2, 4, that means I still have 2 more yarn over, knit 2 togethers, but there's no yarn over after the last knit 2 together. Instead we just knit 4, just like we did the first time. Okay, now we got that row done, and you can see all the yarn overs. Then it says to do row 3, which is knit 4, purl to the last 4, and then knit 4. So we'll get that going. Let's get this out of the way. And we can always bring it back. Okay, so we got to knit 4. And then purl to the last 4. Now when you get to your yarn overs, they look like an accident, but that's correct. You want to purl your accident, which is not an accident, that's your yarn over. And you do it all the way across, being very careful not to drop your yarn over. It's very important to keep that on your needle. And you just purl all the way across to the other end. I'm just about to the end. I've got maybe 6 or 8 more to go. And still purling the yarn overs until I get to the last 4. And then of course we're going to knit the last 4. Then we'll check and see what row 5 says to do. Whoops, I'm on my last 4, so the yarn goes to the back, and we're going to knit those last 4. There we are. So now you can see we got our yarn overs on the top, just like our yarn overs on the bottom. So let's see what this says to do. It says we got to do row 4 once more. Well, that's what we just did. We purled across. So we've already done rows 2, 3, 4 is knit across. I was looking at the wrong one. So we got to knit 1 roll across, and then we got to do our 8 rolls of garter stitch. So let's go ahead and knit the one across. So this is just straight knit all the way across, just like we always do. And you'll still, looks like a little opening, but that is your yarn over, so don't worry about that little opening. That is correct. Just keep doing your knit across. Okay, I went ahead and finished knitting that 1 roll across. So that means we finished this roll 4. Now we're going to do the part where I'm going to knit 8 rows. Since you know how to knit, there's no need for me to show doing those last 8 rows. So I'll come back after I got those last 8 rows done, which will look like this, and we'll do our bind off and our washcloth will be finished. Okay, I've got my 8 rows here and I got my 8 rows up here. All that's left is to bind off, and the bind off will be done on the back. Otherwise we'd have an extra design on the top that doesn't match the bottom. So a basic bind off is what we're going to do. You want to make it as loose as possible. If for some reason you can't bind off loose with the needles you're using, you can always, this needle go up to a 7. That way it'll be a little bit bigger and it'll make your stitches a little bit bigger. Also, I have a video out there that shows how to bind off loose, looser, and very loose. There's 3 different types, so you can see which one would work the best for your project. I usually use the very loose when I make a shawl because you want that top edge of the shawl to be very relaxed and stretchy. Otherwise your shawl, instead of being a nice triangle, it looks more like a sharp V. But you want to take your time and do your bind off. Now I want to show you that why you want to do the bind off with the back showing. See how you got this little ridge here? And it shows on the back, but on the front it doesn't show. Instead, the front looks like the front edge here, so it looks uniform. If this was on the front, it would have a whole different look, and you don't have it on the bottom, and you want to make it as uniform as possible, so you want to bind off on the back side. Or that'll be actually it's row 9, because we started row 1 on the back, reverse side, so all odd rolls are on the reverse side. Most time the odd rolls is on the front, but it just depends on your pattern. Some of your patterns wind up going the other direction. Back is front and front is back, in order for it to have the appearance or look that the designer is going for. So just keep going across. I think I'll pause the video and get over to the other end. There's no need for you to watch me keep doing the same thing over and over again. I try to make your time functional, and I can't really say profitable, but done in a timely manner, so you're not watching me sit here and do the exact same stitch for 8 rolls for 15 minutes worth of knitting when you only have to see the very beginning and the very end, as long as it's the same thing. Well, I'm just about to the end now, so all my talking got me almost to the end, so I'll go ahead and finish it. Looks like it's going to take a little over 3 minutes to do the finished bind off, or go to the bind off to the end. I was keeping track of my time. All total, a face cloth has taken me a little over 3.5 hours to make. And if you're a reasonable fast knitter, it'll take you 3 to 3.5 hours. If you're a slow knitter, it might take you 4. But it'll kind of give you an idea how long it's going to take you to make one. And if you're extremely slow and you just enjoy knitting for the joy of it, it could take you 5 or 6 hours. Now, I know some people knit even faster than I do. It might only take you 2.5 hours. I enjoy knitting, so I'm not trying to win a racing contest. I just knit at my pace. And as you see here, what I'm doing is my pace. Just about done. The end is in sight. Looks like there's about 6 left. Oh, that one split on me. I gotta be careful when one splits. You take your time and undo it, because if it splits on the end, it's really going to show. There, that's better. 3 left. There we go. Now to finish the last one, I pull it up a bit. I pull it up. Put the yarn through. You can use your needle or your finger, whatever works better, to bring the yarn up through. Cut your tail and finish bringing it through and then tighten it. And now it is finished. All that's left is obviously weaving in the tails. I'll move it out. That's as far as it'll go. Now these, as you notice, you need to stretch them out because the garter stitch border is always tighter than a stockinette stitch. So you have to stretch them out a bit. Let's see what our final width is before any blocking. The bottom width is roughly 10. The middle width is just a full 10. This side is 10.5. I guess I got looser as I worked on this side, which is not uncommon for me. And I wanted to show you one other thing. Because it's all stockinette stitch, you see how it likes to roll in? That's just the nature of stockinette stitch. And on the front side, this side likes to roll in because of the knit two togethers. But once it's been washed and laid flat to dry, it's going to start relaxing. And the more you use it, the more relaxed it gets, and it'll no longer want to curl in. But I wanted to show you a finished one, so thank you for watching. I enjoyed showing you how this one is made. If you want to keep seeing my videos, please subscribe and hit notification. And if you think a friend of yours would love to make one of these, please share it with them. I forgot one more thing, how I finish it off. I don't like to go across this way because as you use it, it's going to stretch. Let me bring this closer. I prefer to go along the edges and just catch the edge for about 1 inch. And then when I go back, I don't go back in where it came out. I usually go over that and then back through, hoping to split the yarn that I just did. That helps tighten it. There you go. And then when you trim it off, well, I didn't trim it quite far enough. You really don't see it. It really, oh, I don't know why I'm out of focus. It really gives it a nice, smooth, finished look. Okay, now we'll do the other side. Since we have 2 ends, if I can get this to lay flat over my needle. A lot of times I try to use a needle with a sharper point when I do this part, because I want to make sure it splits through the little knobs you see on the end of your work. There you go. And then you turn it over. And do the same thing back. And trim your tail. Okay, so now it's finished. And it gives it a really nice look.